What up, world, and welcome to another episode of the South African Spies podcast. Today, we're back with another episode in the Clowning with Keaton segment. So, welcome back, Keaton.
How's it, man?
Good to have you back.
Good to be back. You know I love coming back here. It's so funny.
Yeah, so today we're going to get into a cool topic and something that I'm sure is keeping you really busy, and that is preparing for marriage.
Oh, yes. I'm ready for the conversation. Yeah, I'm ready to prepare. That's what I meant. I'm ready for marriage. I'm ready for the conversation. We got this. Let's go.
Now, I must say, when I was trying to think about this specific topic, it was really difficult for me because I had a very different experience to the norm, and I couldn't actually think about what to do to prepare for marriage. So because you are really in this phase and you're doing a lot of this preparation with your wedding coming up, I'm actually going to rely on a lot of what you say, and maybe by the end of this, I'll be taking some of the things that you're currently doing and introducing to my already happened marriage.
It's a little late. You guys are married, but it's fine.
It's never too late to have big conversations.
Oh, so good you are, man. Communication is key.
Communication is key. That is exactly it. Tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing to, prepare for marriage.
So, the prep thing, the one thing we both agreed on is that we're going to do the premarital counseling just so that we can learn. I think for me, what I would really love to get out of that is how to resolve certain conflicts. Not to attack the other person, but to listen, let's talk about this. Let's calm down for a second,
Healthy arguments, healthy communication.
Healthy arguments, not go sleep outside type argument. That's a bit insane. Because my philosophy is, it doesn't matter how angry I am. I'm not going to stop loving you. Yes, we can go to bed angry. It's fine. As long as we don't wake up angry. If you wake up angry, then there's a real problem.
Yeah, and also when you're angry, just not throwing around the divorce word.
Exactly. You don't joke about it. That's never ever an option. And that's one thing that we've made clear, going into this, is there will not be a second marriage. This is our one and done. We got problems, we go sort them out. You want to be angry, you want to throw things, fine. But we're not getting divorced. We're going to sort this out, So I think the premarital counseling for us, very, very good to have. I think I'm a firm believer in therapy and in counseling and fixing yourself and getting help. And I think it's good, especially now we have the tools, And I think personally, it'll be a lot easier for me to adjust to someone living with me because I'm a very compromising person. I personally don't mind because I'm it makes my wife happy. She needs this. She needs this clean. Does it bother me? No. I like to be clean. Perfect example. I like to be clean. But I don't need to wash my dishes immediately. I can give it 10 to 20 minutes. But if it needs to be done immediately because my wife wants to be happy, sure, cool. I'll go wash the dishes. And it's because I was raised by women. I lived around women my entire life because my father passed away at a very young age. So I grew up with my sister and my mother in the house and my cousins. And, I was ooh, I'm the baby, but I'm also the only boy. So there's lots of things that I had to learn. So I think I'll be fine. I think for my future wife, it'll be an adjustment.
And do you think this premarital counseling is also preparing her for those kind of things? So would that probably be one of her key points of preparation, is learning to adjust?
Learning the adjustment of living with someone else that doesn't treat her like a child personally, if she wants to do something, she can do it. She just needs to get used to the idea that there's another person there as well. In a different capacity relationship-wise, because living with your mother as a girl is not the same as going and living with your brother. It's completely different, And so I think that will be a huge adjustment for her.
I think you're quite young, getting married. So do you have a lot of friends that are in the process of also getting married or preparing to get married or married already?
So my one cousin on my fiance's side, but he's my cousin. I took him, it's fine. He's mine now. Him and his wife, they're my cousins now. He'll be 28 this year. My fiance is older than me. She's 2 years older than me.
Look at you going for the older woman, eh?
Go for aunties. They're too tired to cheat, man. I stand by it as well because my father did the exact same thing. My mother was 2 years older than my father. I was yes, he knew the way. Anyway, so by the time when we get married, myself and my wife, future wife, I will be 27 and she'll be 29. So we'll have another year under our belt. But the youngest people I know is him because his wife will be 22 this year or 23. So she's much younger than us. Other than that, not really, hey? In my friend group, I'd be the first one to get married.
So no pressure, because now you have to also be an example for how to.
It's fine. It'll be a good competition. We will be a beacon of light in the world of darkness. But it's also it's funny because I'm the youngest of all my friends. All my friends are either a year or 2 years older than me. My fiance is 2 years older than me. My sister is older than me. She got married 4 or 5 years ago, I think. Yeah, 5 years ago. I think it's a lot for us as well because you can probably relate to this. But growing up, we don't really have a lot of good couple examples, married couple examples. Like I know growing up, I have zero. Even currently, I think I maybe have like 2 or 3.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things that also got to me, like when I always knew I wanted to get married. So that was never a question for me. Like I was ready to get married from a very young age. And I think, we've spoken about this and you've said as well. So we're like always ready for marriage. But I think one of the biggest things I realized during the process, like, preparing to get married when we were doing all this wedding planning, is that there's so much focus put on the wedding and preparing for the wedding day itself. But there's so little spoken about when it comes to what does married life look like and how do you prepare for a successful marriage. And it's kind of taken for granted that you'll just know what to do and you'll know what not to do and you'll know how to compromise and you'll know how to fight and you'll know how to do these things. But like when you think about it, there's actually so much of prep work that has to go into being able to do those things.
And I personally think it's because you pay for the wedding, you don't pay for the marriage. So that's where the focus is. If anything, you save for the marriage, you pay for the wedding, So
Yeah.
the focus is like, because I've noticed it, like, especially now that you bring it up, I've not heard one in-law, one cousin, one person, except for my mom. She's the only person who's like, this is going to happen when you're married. And like things, she's literally the only person. Everyone else is focused on the wedding.
I don't know if you feel this way as like you're prepping for it now and you're thinking about situations, but I certainly felt like maybe I'm doing something wrong if the situation arises because you never told how to react to a situation or how to have conversations and stuff. It's something that, so I've learned a lot from previous relationships, and so has Mikhail learned from previous relationships, and then we got together, and then I think it's got to do with so many things. It's your personality, it's the experience, how you look at things. But it's definitely not something that people are open to talking about. And then the advice you get is also very generic. Don't go to bed angry, put each other first.
It's not easy to follow if you've never had it, if you've never had the example. Because, like, for a lot of us, the example was one would start cooking, one would start cleaning, the other one would go drinking. And that's not a very healthy way to deal with things. So it's one of those things. It's a lot of pressure. I feel it. I personally feel very pressurized. Like, I know I've always wanted to be a husband, but again, I've never done it before.
Yeah, what does it actually mean to be a husband is something you've got to figure out in this process now so that when the time comes, you can actually be that husband you want to be.
Exactly, to be a good husband, because all my examples of what a good husband look like come from either like friends' parents or like people I've read about. So I aspire to be like them,
But again, it's probably also only the positive things.
Yeah, it's never, the negative stuff is never talked about. But I've been lucky, and I don't want to say this because that sounds so horrible, but I've been lucky enough to see like people go through bad patches in marriages and see how they deal with it. So because I'm the youngest, like a lot of cousins, aunties and things like that, who were of a newer generation, who actively communicated and things like that, I got to see them, how they deal with it, how they deal with like a big thing that people don't talk about. And it's a really disgusting conversation to have, but finances. What do you do if like your partner loses their job?
I think though in like Indian communities in general, I know it's everywhere, but I think specifically in Indian communities, finances is something that is not an open conversation. It's not something that people like to talk about, but yet it's so important because it's also something that outside influences put a lot of pressure on. Like it's a lot of pressure on that. It's a constant topic of their conversation, and when they talk to you about, they put a lot of emphasis on, who's paying for this and how you're affording that and stuff. But those conversations to happen internally, it also feels so stressful and shameful almost to have those conversations.
It is, it's weird, but it's a conversation that I feel like a lot of people need to have. Like debt. Like a lot of people say, no, you don't just marry the person, you marry the family. Disagree. You marry the person and their problems. There's a difference. The family's part of the wedding. They're not part of the marriage. For example, if myself and my fiance were to have a fight, I'm not just going to go to the family council and be like, family, listen, this and that. No. It's not for you.
So finances are definitely like a really important conversation to have. right? And, talking about finances is not just about, oh, this is my salary, this is your salary, this is what it involves, but it's definitely more in-depth than that. So you talk about past, so that would be your debt. You talk about current, and that will be, who pays for what, how you split expenses, stuff like that. And then you also talk about future. So investments, what are you saving towards? What are your financial goals kind of look like?
That's a good one, actually, that a lot of people overlook, because you can't just be like, nah, put your dreams on hold so we can save for mine. You can't do that, because they're a person. They have dreams.
Exactly.
They have their own thing. Yeah, I think the splitting of bills is a really important one, because I think a further conversation with that is like, say you guys are splitting rent, or just per se, like what happens if your partner can't cover this month's rent? Like that's a conversation you need to have. And I feel like people think that marriage is just sunshine and rainbows all the time. Like being in a relationship, it's not that it needs to be hard, but there are hard things that need to, like, hard times happen to everyone. And you need to, as a unit, as a team, be able to go through that. With the right person, it shouldn't be hard, because you'll be going through together.
Yeah, but also people don't realize that financial hardships are part of those hard times. And I know of a lot of marriages that have actually suffered because of finances and financial instability and, lack of planning or stress. Not even, the other things, but just the stress of being financially okay.
And there's lots of people, especially like, because if we were to look at like all the cousins and aunties and things like that, if they were struggling, a lot of them had kids. And that puts a lot of stress and tension on a marriage. And you need to understand that about your partner, I think, personally, that they are stressed, but they're not stressed because of you. So don't add to their stress and don't take it personally. Like one of you has to be like, oh, okay, don't worry, be stressed. Even if y'all are both stressed, like I feel like it's part of being a team, a unit. Sometimes you just have to let them be stressed, because if you're both stressed, you won't go anywhere.
That's true. Two people stressing at the same time gives nothing. Fixes nothing.
You'll just sit there and stress.
For nothing also. You stress yourself out more.
Exactly, And so I don't know, I feel like the conversations that need to be had in relationships, you won't really have it in a new relationship. Like if you're dating someone for like 3-4 months, the chances of you discussing your future together are very slim.
Unless you're me.
You're different story. You are the 1%. So it's one of those things, like, enjoy the moment when you're in a new relationship. But as you start prepping for marriage and start prepping for the wedding, some serious conversations you have to have. I think the children conversation is a big one. Most people assume that the other person wants kids.
Or they assume that whatever you want, so whether you want kids or you don't want, that's the same thing that your partner wants.
They'll agree with you. And like that's a lot of people dream about having kids. Like that is having a family is their ultimate goal. They could be like mediocre in their dreams and like, it's fine, but they want kids. That's their dream. It's not you come and you tell them, nah, I don't want kids. You're taking everything away from this person, And that's why I'm very thankful that myself and my fiance are on the same page. Like, controversial, we don't want kids. How could you?
Well, I think in this age it's a little bit more accepting on that side. Maybe not in the Indian community, it's not as accepting, but I think more internationally, or like as this generation is kind of growing, because I have a lot of friends also who don't want kids. But like you were saying now, it is very important because I am very maternal. I want children, but it's being a wife and being a mother were the two things that I've always wanted the most, and that was the only thing I've dreamt about. Yes, I've had other dreams, I have ambitions, and I have goals and stuff, but my ultimates were those two. So if I found somebody that didn't want kids, it would be like, that is a deal breaker for me. And it may not be for everyone, but for me it would be.
Well, no, but also, you can't find something like that out 10 years down the line. You can't date someone like, oh, we're going to get married, this is our future. And then 10 years down the line, like, oh, this is a big thing that don't align.
Or just now you find out like, hey, I'm pregnant. And you're like, what?
Exactly. It's decisions that you have to make, because you have to make them together. You have to be on the same page, because you are kind of, but responsible for a whole other person that isn't a child. They can make their own decisions and things like that. So you'll have to, I think, finding a way to be on the same page is very important.
I completely agree. And I also think that particular conversation also builds or leads onto another conversation that you'll have and you'll continuously probably have in your marriage, like leading up to preparing for children. And that will be like your parenting styles and how you want to parent and kind of figuring out where you guys align on that type of thing.
A lot of people, again, don't have that discussion. They just assume that they'll be good parents. I'm like, oh, well, and that's a stress. That's a stress for a lot of people, You also have to then, that's a financial thing. How do we afford kids? Where do we send them to school? Can I afford to give birth to this thing? Because giving birth is expensive, as much as people don't like it. They're like, oh, capitalist society. I'm like, but it's the society we live in. You have to pay for medical bills.
In South Africa, unfortunately, you do have to. Okay, so those are definitely two like conversations, right? So finances, making sure that you're aligned on whether or not you want kids. What else? What else do you think is like really an underrated or undervalued conversation when it comes to prepping for marriage?
Task management. And what I mean by this is that there are certain things that your partner will not do. You can moan about it till y'all die. Your partner will not do it. So you have to like understand that there's some things you have to step up and there's some things that they have to step up. For example, myself and my fiance have agreements. I'll be doing the cooking. I'll wash the dishes. I don't mind. I'll scrub the floor. Shup. She must do the ironing. I refuse. Mainly because it makes no difference in my life. Having a crease shirt is just like, but guys, it wasn't this creased. I sat down and I did something and now my shirt is weird.
That's definitely one. And I've also recently done an episode on like gender roles. And I think this also kind of fits into gender roles because task management and trying to like figure out who does what does not necessarily mean because you are male or female, these tasks are assigned to you. Like you said now, like, you would do the cooking and washing of the dishes and stuff where I think a lot of people have this expectation. You're a married woman, you will be doing all the cooking. You will be doing all the cleaning.
Go cook for your husband. I love hearing that. And my response is no, because this way she can never poison me. Modern problems, modern solutions.
Smart.
It's things like that. I think like gender roles in a marriage, I don't know if they're necessary for certain things. Like I feel like obviously my fiance is better at a lot of things than I am, and I'm better at a lot of things than she is. It's just a natural human thing, What frustrates me, and I've noticed this a lot about, I don't know new couples, but like just people in general, is that for some reason, because you're a boy or because you're a man, you can't be clean. A pet peeve of Faye is if like someone were to shave, like if a brother shaves and his hair in the sink, she'll kill him. The only reason she hasn't killed him, you see, look at your face. So I know.
Cringing.
Right? So I know, like, as soon as, and I know this. So even before, it wasn't a major adjustment for me because it bothers me too. But now I know, like, I'm more conscious that if I shave here, I'm like, cool. As soon as I'm done, clean everything, wipe everything, make sure there's no hair, make sure everything's cool. And it's those things. It's funny because I'm watching How I Met Your Mother again for like the 10th time. And
your annual watch.
It's my annual watch, Just gotta get back into it. So I was watching it and something about this topic came up. It's like, yeah, you have to sacrifice and yeah, there are things that you have to do. But if it's for your person and you love them, it's not that hard to do. Do the dishes, clean the sink. It's not difficult because you're doing it for them. Whether it means anything to you is irrelevant. So like communication on pet peeves, on things that frustrate you to the point where you will kill your partner. Those are things that I feel like a lot of couples need to have that conversation.
Yeah. Something that I've also kind of heard about in couples, especially people married for a long time, is they say that, they start off like such a good relationship and, they're so like on par with certain things, but it ends up being that the smaller fights in the relationship is what leads to like an ending of that marriage or like a really unhappy marriage and stuff like that. And that's really just because things like pet peeves and, those small little things that irritate you don't get spoken of and they don't get addressed. And it's just like, oh, it's so small, like just let it go. And I really think pet peeves is definitely a big conversation to have, preferably before you move in. But I would say also it is sometimes difficult to understand it's a pet peeve of yours until somebody does it.
Because you don't even realize it because no one's done it yet.
Yeah. But I think if you have like a good like level of communication with your partner where you can say, listen, you left this cupboard open. If you do this again, I will explode. Those are things.
Things need to be said because don't act like I can't read your mind. You can't read my mind, I'm not going to know it bothers you unless you tell me.
And that's a really like big thing. And you spoke now about leaving hair in the sink and stuff. Yeah, Mikhail's learned the hard way.
Yeah, and it's but also at the same time, like you have to think back, like, did you tell him before and you just didn't do it? Yeah, you see that, nah. So like obviously, like I'm not gonna know I'm pissing you off unless you tell me. Because my biggest thing is don't be passive. I'm a big boy, be direct, Don't be like, maybe you should do this. I'm just like, listen, this pissed me off. I'm like, ah, cool. Because my response is I'll be passive back to you.
The other thing I also realized, and this is something like Mikhail to also like very clearly tell me, is like, don't expect me to read between the lines because I can't. I don't. So you can suggest and you can say things and stuff. I'm just not going to get it. So rather just tell me exactly how it is. And I've really struggled with that for certain things. Maybe not like the pet peeve things, but like for other things when I'm like, but you just like, how can you not tell that this is what it is? And he's like, because you didn't say it. Did you say it? Did you, like, how did you say it? I'm like, indirectly. And it's like, yeah, I don't.
Yeah. And I think that's where gender roles is a thing. Because I feel like girls need to understand this about boys because we never learn about each other, like girls and boys and guys and girls, whatever, until you're in a relationship with someone. Especially like that. Like I'm the same. Don't passively tell me something. Because my mother's favorite line to me is like, when you going for a haircut? Don't say that. Just say go for a haircut. Don't because if you ask me that, I'll be like, oh, I'm not going for a haircut. Why? Does it bother you? No, just asking, does it bother you? I'm like, no, I'm gonna let my hair grow out now. I'm that type of person. I'm petty with purpose. And I've been like coaching Faye through that as well. Because her favorite line is like, when are you going for a haircut? I'm like, do you want me to go for a haircut? Like, no. Do you want to go? I'm like, I don't want to go for a haircut. Okay, go for a haircut. I'm like, thank you. Was that so hard?
Yeah, just say it.
Just say it. Because as men, we can't. It's not something that we do. We are very direct. Suggestion is not a thing for us.
I think that's probably one side of it or one reason for it. But I also think it's dependent on your personality. Like some people don't want to say things like that because they feel that it's confrontational and they don't like.
That's also true.
They want to stir the pot and they think, saying things like that is just going to stir the pot and they'd rather just avoid it and deal with it. But then you're internalizing this and it's going to explode one day for something else. Something as stupid as, why did you leave the remote there when I leave it here every other day?
And remember, the other person doesn't know you've been internalizing this.
And it's a shock and it's like, gee, something is wrong with you. Bad day, man.
Exactly, And I feel like, and guys are the same. Like we don't realize that girls are under a lot of stress. Y'all internalize a lot. Y'all don't want to fight with us. Y'all have had crazy ex-boyfriends that are crazy beyond crazy. We need to learn as guys, because as guys, we have no filter with each other. We need to learn to be like a bit more gentle with you guys so that you can't just like call you crazy for things that are genuinely making you upset because you will stab us in our sleep and you'll actually be crazy. There's a difference.
I'm glad you know this.
Of course I know this. It was whooped into me. God damn it. I'm made of husband material. And this was beautiful. I heard this on TikTok. Someone said that we have romanticized the idea of romance. And it is very toxic. And I'm like, yeah. Because you see it on movies like, I want to be like that. It's like, there's no movie about what happens after the happily ever after. There's nothing, People, you have to learn. You have to be willing to like let your ego go and calm down on your side and be like, listen, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe.
Yeah, just do a little bit of, introspection and maybe look at it. That kind of brings me to like a next topic that I think is also really important, and that's learning how to fight. I don't mean like, put on your boxing gloves and learn how to like fight it out, but learning how, it might help. But I mean also like, learning how to fight in the sense that have an open conversation about how you feel when you're angry, because some people, when they're upset, don't want to talk about the problem right then and there. Other people, when they're upset, want to get it all out, have it resolved and stuff, and just like move on. And I think you have to figure out between you and your partner what kind of person you are when you fight. Do you need the time to cool down, or do you need to speak about it then and there? Because when you have a better way of trying to resolve your conflict when it arises.
Agreed. Because I know for myself, I'm the person who, when I'm angry, I just need a second. Because I don't like talking out of anger. Because if you say stupid things, you say crazy things, things you say don't even make sense.
Yeah.
You're fighting with yourself at that point, So I know I'm that person. And I feel like with the premarital counseling as well that we're going to go for, that's something that I think we'll learn, because I honestly feel like Faye is the type of person that needs to get it out. So it's one of those things where we'd have to learn, just like, give me a second. I'm not saying give me a week. Give me a second.
Like, you have to find the balance.
Just, yeah. We can talk about it now, but just give me like 10 minutes to just, so that both of us aren't stressed when we talk about this conversation.
And I think also having that conversation comes with the realization that you are going to have arguments and you are going to have fights. It doesn't mean you're in the wrong marriage. Well, it depends on what it's about. But usually it doesn't mean that, you're in the wrong marriage or you made a mistake. It just means that that's normal. I think every relationship has to have some level of disagreement.
Yeah, and going back to like the divorce thing. Yes, I'm fighting with you. That doesn't mean I don't love you. I'm still going to make you food. I'm not going to divorce you when we wake up. I'm not going to leave you. We need to fight about this because we need to understand what we're fighting about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's an understanding thing. It's realizing that the fight, that, what is it? You're not against each other. It's you versus the problem. That's the one. That's the one.
That's a really good quote. I really, really like that one.
I agree. Because people forget, like, when you're married, it's your team. That's your person.
Yeah.
And then when you fight, it automatically becomes this thing about I'm right, you're right, and keeping score and stuff like that. It's difficult. It's difficult to not be that way. And it is, I think, all these changes or, ways that you look at things, especially in a marriage, it's subtle changes that you have to slowly kind of make, but it's also very conscious decisions that you have to make.
It's a sacrifice.
It's a compromise.
Yeah, because sacrifice is not so much, but I agree. It's compromise. Like, I think the biggest thing is you have to be willing to be wrong. Even if you're right. It doesn't matter how right you are. You have to be willing to be wrong for the sake of your marriage. And
I'm never wrong, though.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking about me. I was talking about the guys. Don't worry. I know who I was talking about. And all the guys were like, yeah, he knows. That time I was right. I was so right. But she was good. She was going to go stay at my mother's house if I said that. So I was like, every man you'll see that will listen to this, like, he speaks for us.
I mean, there's a reason that, you get the matching cups that says Mr. Right and Mrs. Always Right. Come on.
It's like flip a coin. Heads you're right, tails I'm wrong. It's one of those situations. That's what it's like. That's what it's like. I know, don't worry. I know.
It's exactly like it.
And the funny thing is that, like, as the wife, we'll know that they were right. But you're not going to hear it. You're not going to get it. You must just, in your mind, consider that, you were right. It comes with the title of wife. There's certain, attributes you have to take up. And I think that's one of them.
Yeah. Like, I'll never forget this day. I wasn't there for dinner. Well, actually, I was there for food. All I wanted was food. But it was my mother and one of her friends. And they were talking. And my mother at the time, she had like a glass of wine, or it was sangria or something like that. So I was going to drive her home. So they were talking about relationships, and the friend, she wanted like a different perspective. She was like, no, you don't understand. You guys have young love. You won't understand what I'm going through. I'm like, oh, okay. So do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship? She's like, no, I want to be right. I'm like, then don't be in a relationship. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I want to eat my food. This is the truth. Like, do you want to be right? Do you want to be in a relationship? Which is more valuable to you?
That is true. I think, like, a lot of the times also we have to kind of differentiate what being in a relationship means. What being in a marriage actually means. There is a flip that switches. You could be together I've seen people be in a relationship, and a happy, good relationship, for years on end. And then they decide to get married, and sure, day off, week before, day before, whatever it is, month before the wedding, just realize, listen, actually, this is not what I want. So there's definitely a different way or a different perspective that you look at marriage and you start interpreting it. Again, I don't think I have that switch. I don't think I had that switch because of how things happened with Ricardo and I. Just all happened so quickly. So we were basically, I don't know, we were either basically married from the day we met or we're still dating now. I don't know which one it is. Can it be both? Is it okay? Is it okay to be both?
No, but that's what good marriages are. Because a lot of the times people are like, I'm married. I don't need to try anymore. I'm like, no, you need to try twice as hard now. What do you mean? Like, oh, but we married now. I don't need to do this. I'm like, yes, you do. What do you mean?
Yeah, you definitely do. You don't stop dating when you're married.
Exactly. They didn't marry you because they wanted to marry you. They married you because you dated and they liked you. And it's a lot of people. A lot of people are like, oh, we married. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm like, yes, you do. That's what marriage is. Marriage just means now you guys are living together. That's normally what it means. You'll still have to go on dates. You'll still have to try.
Yeah, you still have to put in the effort. I think once you lose the effort, then that's when a lot of things just go downhill from there.
Exactly. That's when people will be like, "Oh, but they changed." I'm like, "No, they didn't. They just got lazy in the marriage.
Yeah, they just stopped. They didn't change, they just stopped.
They just stopped because they were like, "Oh, we're married. We don't have to do this anymore." I'm like, "That's so sad, though. Marriage is supposed to be fun. Like marriage is supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to be arguing and then like having pancakes at 2 o'clock because you're still arguing, but you're not hungry because that argument took a lot out of you. You know, that's what marriage is supposed to be like.
Marriage is a lot of fun.
It's
Like-
supposed to be fun. People are like, no, it's hard work. I'm like, no, life is hard. Marriage is easy.
I agree. I also think, though, that it is a misconception that the first year of marriage is the hardest. So you and I are definitely going to have this conversation once you've hit your first year and you're into your second year. First year of marriage was not the hardest for us. I think the second year, then you kind of like, then you're out of like the honeymoon stage.
Yes, I agree. People act like the honeymoon stage is like that first year of dating. I'm like, nah, babes.
No. So we'll definitely come back to this. And I think everybody just needs to keep us accountable to have this conversation again.
We had to have this conversation again. I don't mind. I'll have it with my wife. We should do the actual married couple an
Yes.
episode like that. I think that would be great.
I think we'll do that. We'll do the two couples together. Talking about more things to like prepare for marriage. I think another big conversation to have is probably like your goals and your aspirations and your ambitions. So like where you kind of see yourself, because you have to also stop looking at seeing yourself as the individual, and you have to start looking at where you see yourself within this person. It's not because you lose yourself, it's just because there is another person to consider.
I agree. I don't know if like they need to always be on the same page. Like even if your goals go in different directions, that doesn't mean like, oh, obviously if your goal was to move to like a remote island, then maybe have that conversation. Maybe be like, listen, I kind of want to, you know. But if you have, I think the way I think of it is more like hobbies. Like if you enjoy building Lego, build your Lego. And if they don't enjoy building Lego, you don't have to force them to build the Lego. Your goals and aspirations and hobbies and dreams, they're what make you your own person. You don't have to give that up unless they completely conflict with what you guys are doing. Like if your goal is to become a monk, maybe don't get married. You know what I mean? Just a thought. Maybe think about it. My thing is like for me, it's certain things like I love to read. Like reading, I will have a massive bookshelf and things like that. But I might not because space and effort. So I might just get in a Kindle. But anyway, my fiance, she likes to read, but she's not into it as not as much like I am. So obviously, I'm not going to buy her books and things like that. But I'm also not going to force her to read my books. Her interest stops because when she buys me the book, and that's the thought that counts. That's so much more valuable than us reading a book together. So your dreams and things like that, I think it's good to have them participate and help you because now you have another person, you have a team. But they don't have to do everything with you. That's another conversation we can have, is that being alone is just as important. Sometimes you need your alone time.
Definitely. That's a really, really big one, because there's also like this misconception that like you have before you go into marriage that, oh my God, so now I'm going to have a partner, which means everything we do, we have to do together. That's not it. That's not, I mean, yes, some people do have, their partner and they do everything with them, and that's okay. If you're both are like, that's what you both need. But I also think it's okay to not have to do everything together. Like there's times where Mikhail's a gamer and I like to read. It helped me actually get back into reading because he'll play games and then eventually I'll be like, okay, I don't want to watch. Like I'm tired of watching now and stuff. But we like to be in each other's space still. So I used to take that time when he was playing games to iron. I like to iron, right? So I would like bring the ironing board downstairs and bring all the clothes and just be like, I'm gonna iron. And that was like what I enjoyed doing. He liked the fact that I was still in his space, even though we're doing separate things. So I would have like earphones in and I would be listening to something. And then when we're done, he'll help me take everything back upstairs, and cool. We both had a nice, enjoyable evening of doing separate things. Now that I'm like reading, I would actually look forward to when he's playing games because I'm like, cool, when you playing games, that's my dedicated reading time. But it's not taking away from time, like our time apart.
And I feel like spending time together in silence is so important. Because I have a picture in my head, and we've done this before. I'll be on the couch, I'll be playing games. She will be next to me. She'll either be on Instagram or she'll just be chilling there. We don't have to speak. especially because like both of us work in a field where we speak to people all the time for the entire day. Sometimes you just want to just, if she's watching series and I couldn't care less about the series, I'll sit next to you and I'll read a book. I'll play games or I'll scroll and judge people on Instagram. I don't do that, but I'm just saying.
But it's the same. And I think that's what a healthy relationship also like looks like. It may not be for everybody. Some people may not like to do that. But if that is something you want to do, I think it's also an important conversation to have, and to be able to be like, you don't have to constantly be doing something. So to be able to just be in each other's space, just be, just do whatever. So undervalued.
That's so brilliant, because you made me think about something as well. Is I think people don't understand that healthy, happy relationships are boring. People think that because it's boring, it's the wrong one. No, happiness is boring. People don't want to be happy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have worried about how we're doing, because also we got married and we obviously been here. So it's literally we've only had each other. And I think a lot of people worry that that's putting so much of pressure and, oh, you guys, like, you don't post anything and stuff. And I'm like, that's because when we are alone together and we actually enjoying our time together, those are not conversations that need to be out there, or whatever it is we're doing, whether it's he's cooking for me and I'm just eating everything.
You guys are in a relationship. You don't need to tell the world. You don't need to post anything about it. If y'all do content together, cool. But you don't need to. There's nothing wrong with not posting.
Yeah, not everybody feels that way.
Oh, some people are weird. Like, for me, the first time I posted my fiance's face was with the day we got engaged. And the next time was probably when we'll be married. That'll probably be it. We don't need to post about each other. Why? Because we're enjoying each other's company.
That has been a new thing for me, is not posting. Because in previous relationships, I also felt that that was a very important part for me of the relationship, is for me to see that you are posting about me, and that showed me that, like, you were proud of me, or that you weren't, whatever it is, like you were okay to like show me off, and stuff. And now it's honestly the last thing I think about.
Literally, you couldn't care less.
I don't care. I don't actually care what you're doing. I don't care whether you're posting. I don't care whether you see what I post. I also don't care about myself posting, because I've got nothing to prove to anybody else. I don't need to prove that that is what is happening in my life, because it's so good here that I actually feel it's invasive to be public about it.
Yes. Good. See?
That is growth for me.
That is good. That is personal growth. And a lot of relationships don't have that. A lot of relationships, they don't want to grow as individuals or as a couple.
And it's not to say that, like, if you are a couple that like posts each other a lot and stuff, that it is not a good relationship. I think what is healthy just looks different for everyone.
Agreed. But yeah, again, I think that stems down to what I said, like, happiness and being healthy is boring. And people don't understand that. People think that it's excitement and it's drama and there's lightning strikes and there's fireworks. I'm like, yeah, good toxic people, because you don't know whether they'll come back or not. Every day is a mystery. Like, ooh.
Exactly, you have to make every day count.
Every minute, just like they'll go speak to the ex. Ooh. Like, happiness is like, I worry about your safety. I'm not worried who you talk to. Happiness is like, you get on the couch and you're like,
Have you eaten?
have you eaten? Did you drink water? Why are you cranky? I didn't drink water today. Okay, let's drink some water. Maybe not burn down the village,
Yeah. Oh, I know you were craving this. It's on the menu for tomorrow.
Yeah. Or when you go to the fridge, you don't ask them if they want water, because they didn't drink it anyway, so you bring some for them. Happiness is like working on yourself. It's boring.
I really think it's also the smallest things that like have the biggest meaning.
100%. 100%. It's the little things that give the big things meaning.
To such an extent that I've never understood till now. Like, for example, in my case, we have a coffee machine, but I still can't make coffee. I make coffee and it tastes like absolute garbage. So every morning, even though I wake up a lot later than Mikhail and he goes to work and stuff, and then only like I surface, he makes sure that he makes my coffee and he puts it in the microwave for me, because I can't. And I complain. When I make my own coffee, it tastes terrible. And every morning, he makes sure that I have my coffee.
Exactly. It's the small, random act that you didn't ask for, but they're like, away. I got you.
Yeah, small acts of kindness.
And I don't know. I feel like, again, people people wouldn't do that for other people. People don't want to. I don't know. I feel like that whole thing. It sounds so cliche, but it's like you can't love someone till you love yourself. Like, yeah, it's kind of true. You can't learn the both of them at the same time. It doesn't work.
It is true. It's
You're
true.
making life very difficult for you and for someone else unnecessarily.
What do you think also about a conversation being about past trauma, be it in like, relationships or things that affect you? Because I think it's important.
I think so too, because it'll depend on the person. But like a lot of people emphasize, oh, I have to know about your exes. I have to know what you did. I have to know about your body count and things like that. And to some people it's important. For me, it's more of a like, do you have an STD? I mean, like that's tiny bit more important. Because then maybe we should go get tested. Just maybe we'll make an event out of it, make a date out of it. Because that's the reality of the situation. Like, especially if you live in South Africa, we have an AIDS epidemic. It's insane. I think the past trauma is really important, especially if they haven't dealt with it, because it will manifest itself in your relationship. And that's scary. Like, that's a real scary thing because no one knows what's going on. You're like, whoa, did I do something? No.
Yeah, it's being triggered from something else.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do this. And I didn't think the reaction would be like this, So I definitely feel like past traumas, it's important. It does vary on the person, but I think I agree with you. It's a good thing to talk about that a lot of people overlook.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that we did speak about. It's one of the few things from this list.
Yeah, but I feel like you guys had to, because yours was insane.
Yeah, we had very crazy like past relationships and things that we had to talk about. So even as we met, there was a lot happening. So we really had to talk about a lot of things. But I think, maybe our conversation happened because of other reasons, but it happened. And I think because it happened, it also was a really good thing because it helped us both understand and start looking at things a bit differently. Talking about it really helped us help each other get through things and, heal from things. But it also helped us keep each other accountable for when we felt like, you know what, that's something from the past that you're holding yourself to now. You're not that person, or, that's not you. Like, let it go.
Your anxieties are not real. Anxieties are not real.
Like stuff like that. So that was it's hard to be that vulnerable and that open, especially when you're going into this phase and you will always, no matter how good your relationship is, you will always have this doubt that, what is a person's reaction going to be?
Yeah, it's a leap of faith. You have to trust that they won't call you crazy.
Yeah, or be like, ain't for me, peace out.
Yeah, you have to just trust and just be like, I don't know, I feel like the right person will bring it out of you regardless. Like, you won't feel like you have to lie.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a big thing, is knowing that you don't.
Yeah, because there's lots of people where like they feel like they need to lie about it because they're worried about the reaction of their partner. Then either you shouldn't do it or you shouldn't lie about it. One of the two.
Exactly.
I agree. And I think, the very last thing that I wanted to ask you about, and maybe this is also because of like the diversity within the families itself, but how are you guys preparing for dealing with families? Because let's face it, coming from an Indian household, just like in this community and stuff, like it's a given that your families are very much a part of your entire world, marriage, life, even after you get married. So like, how's that something that you're preparing for?
So like for me personally, I'm not necessarily worried about it because I'm who I am and I have such a big mouth. And I'm just like, I couldn't honestly care about certain family members' opinions. I think I'm okay with it because I told her, we actually had this conversation recently. It's like, I know y'all need to keep the peace with your cousins and things like that. I don't. If your cousins do something to you, I'm going to say something. I'm going to kick them, And it works out better because then I'm banned from family functions. I don't have to go. I'll be so happy. Like, you laugh, but it's the truth. I think it stresses out my fiance a bit because she's had terrible instances with like mother-in-laws and family members in the past. And now she's starting to understand like how supportive my mother is and my family is of her and things like that. And I think it stresses her out because she's just a stressed out person. I feel like girls are very stressed out in that situation about the family. But it's also because a lot of pressure is put on you guys. So yes, I make jokes, but it's jokes from understanding. There's a lot of pressure there. I don't think I'm marrying her family because if I have a problem with certain family members, I'm not going to pretend for the sake of our marriage. No, ban me from the family function, please. Just bring me food. That's the only thing I ask. I don't ask for a lot.
Yeah.
That's my thing. And I think it stresses, I feel like, and in most cases, I feel like the girls are stressed out a lot more because there's a lot more pressure and stress put on them than the guys. Honestly, the guys, most people don't give a second thought about the guys anyway. So it's like, I couldn't care.
Yeah, it's true.
Not
That's
much.
very true.
You know what I mean? So much pressure is put on girls and wives. Husbands is like, the pressure we get is from our wives. And not in like a negative way. It's just like, that's our number one priority. Family stresses on. I'm literally couldn't care. I'm just like, please, if you have problems, go be problems in the streets. I'm going home.
I think in your case, the way, like, you guys are probably preparing for that the best way that you can is literally just you two understanding each other as well as you do. Because once because you'll understand each other the way you do, then you're able to just be like, I know if this person does this is going to be that response, and then it's cool.
Yeah. It is what it is.
It is what it is. And then like you understanding, her a bit better also is just like, I know if this person does this, I know it's going to put extra, an extra mental load or whatever on her. So that's where I need to be in and like step up and be like more supportive.
Exactly. I think it's talk about everything and just try and be as understanding as possible. That's the secret to marriage. When we're married for 30, 40 years, I'm telling you the same thing. We like, just talk about everything. Children, the next generation, talk about everything.
Talk about everything. Always have the conversations. Open conversations, always.
Just talk to them.
But I also think the other secret to marriage is to be accepting from the start that not everything is going to be perfect and that you're not going to have the answers to everything, and it is constantly work.
Yes. It's about the ups and the downs.
I think these are great starters. I think there's a number of, other topics and stuff that also fall part of it, but it just depends on like your situation. But I think the best place to start when trying to figure out what you need to talk about in preparing for marriage is probably understanding what are the most important things to you as an individual. And when two individuals can come together and have a conversation about these are the most important things to me, that will probably be the best foundation for those important conversations.
Agreed. And if you feel like you're going to get off topic, write it down.
Yeah.
So that you can be like, write down the big things like finances, children, but like the personal stuff, write it down just because we go left sometimes. Sometimes
true, all the time.
Like you get angry, like hold on, look at my list. I'm acting like I'm married already. Like I'm giving people. You should be the one giving people advice for marriage.
That is my advice. My advice is literally also, be an open communicator. But as much as my advice, I think, would honestly be communication doesn't mean that you can talk. Communication means that you can listen as well as you can talk. Listen with understanding. And that would be my advice. Honestly, in the marriage, I think communication works both ways. And once you understand that and you can actually do that successfully, everything else will find a place. It will find its way. It will resolve itself.
It just fits.
Everything comes together that way.
But I think this is great. I think this is a really good foundation. And, if anybody's listening who is in the process of, preparing for marriage, or if you are already married and you feel like there's conversations to have, like the conversations never stop. The talking never stops. There's always something, to talk about. I hope this encourages, everybody to keep those conversations going and to make sure you have the really important ones.
Don't stop dating.
Don't stop dating. Yes. Don't stop dating. Yeah, well, thank you for this. And I hope you have really good conversations in this preparation. And yeah, you're in the wedding planning stage. So good luck.
Stressed. Don't remind me. I'm getting there. Yeah, we're getting through it though. We're getting through it.
Yeah, you and Stress are going to be besties. So enjoy Stress. And look, it's a beautiful time. You look back on it, and as stressful as it is, just try and be as in the moment as you possibly can be, because you will look back on it. It's a good time to look back on. Make it as enjoyable as you can.
That's the plan. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Good luck. And we wish you all the best. And, we'll chat to you in our next episode in the segment. So until our next episode, shop sweet and aware. Lots of love.